Right, so can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, that's great. So, welcome to my first ever live stream on this YouTube channel. So, if the audio is working, then that's great. If not, then maybe I'll have to do something with it. Well, actually, this is my second take on this because the first I tried to do this live stream to the public, the audio was kind of glitched out a bit, and I think I was just rambling too much. I was just rambling on too much about stuff without explaining. So this is my second take. So, oh, and also the share screen working the first time I did. So this is my second attempt, and this will be real this time. But anyways, guys, welcome to my first ever live stream on this YouTube channel. I'll be talking about something that I've wanted to do for quite a while now. So I went to my YouTube channel before, or like a few years ago now. You might have noticed these Thomas the Tank Engine style videos where they're just remakes of certain episodes. Well, that is the remake series. Now, before I get into the remake series, I want to discuss a few things. So, I highly doubt that some of you guys are watching this, but if there are some viewers watching this, then that's great. If not, then, you know. So just in case if some viewers come there, I'm just going to rules. So please do not put any inappropriate stuff in the chat or, in the comments. Otherwise, you'll be blocked. Also, I will not be inviting any guests on this stream. You see, just in case they stupid things there. And that would be a real idea to do this. All right, so maybe I should explain about what is the remake series and why these videos became super popular on my YouTube channel. So let's go back to 2021 because it started. So the remake series was a series of videos on my YouTube channel back when it was a different brand name. So it wasn't ZESG54, it was something else. So what inspired me to make the remake series was that I watched a user named GWR Studio on a remake where he remade Pop Goes the Diesel with his engines. I thought that was pretty cool that he did this. I wanted to try something different with my channel, just have a bit of variety. Now, incidents. Pop Goes the Diesel was the first ever Thomas episode I remade. No, and GWR Studios' oldest remake on his channel as of now is the Diesel. So, yeah. A total of about 13 videos remaking some Thomas and Friends episodes from the classic era of Friends. And they became some of the most watched videos on my channel to date, ever since 2022. And the reason was that there was a video 500,000 views, and it was actually a remake of This Will Happen. And this is like one of my favorite Thomas songs, by the way. Not only this came out before the actual remake series. Also, I'd like to give a shout out to one of my friends named the Bloxwood Engine, who was formerly known as Disney Store Fan 1. But the reason why I got rid of that video was because I thought it was kind of crazy. The editing was not the best. And I thought it looks pretty cheap as well. I mean, like, the editing and thing. But hey, this is the reason why, some of my remake episodes blew up with likes for some reason. Glad that most of you guys enjoy my remake episodes. But today, I'm talking about only one of these remake episodes, and that is my most one as of now, called Duncan Gets Spooked. So it was a pretty fun episode for me to make. It was like the first one to get like a lot of attention from viewers. And out of all the remake episodes I did, only a few of them were made for kids thanks to that copy restriction thing. And Duncan Gets Spooked happened to be one of them. I'll get to the reason later in the video. No, stream. Sorry about that. I usually get confused. Well, let's talk about Duncan Gets Spooked as an episode and its story. So in this episode, Peter Sam loses his trucks after not securing them properly, and these trucks fall off the old iron bridge and landed in the ravine. And while at the yard, Duncan teases Peter Sam about this situation, claims that they will come to haunt him, and I mean the trucks. Rusty decides to tell a ghost story to Duncan to see if he gets, well, spooked. Of course, Duncan doesn't believe in Rusty's ghost story. So Peter Sam's driver spoke to Duncan's driver and fireman and asked them to play on Duncan, which they did. Now, I know this is like one of the spookiest and one of the scariest episodes from the classic era of Friends. I seriously enjoyed that. And you can probably tell why I like that episode. If you go watch the episode, if you go search it up on YouTube and then watch it, then see how good it is. It also makes sense since this year is going to be spooky month and Halloween is coming up. All right, so let me explain some things about this remake episode. Now I am going to screenshots of this. So let's do this. So now this is a shot of, two of the narrow gauge engines working hard on their railway. And let me just talk about the models for a sec. So the models of the narrow gauge engines here, I've had a lot of fun making them in Blocks World, which is that game I used to play. And this was made after the shutdown, so yeah. As you can see, these models look very accurate to what it looks like in the TV series, in particular, the CGI era of Thomas and Friends. And I think I prefer CGI designs of the narrow gauge engines a little more than the model series ones, mainly because of their additional features to them. Now, for the wheels of the engines, I didn't have to use the wheel action blocks. I decided to use flat cylinder motors behind them so they can move. Now, this was something that, done in Bloxwood before. Seems like I got really, really creative here. And then I used an invisible thrusting or levitating block. I forgot what it was called really, but it's like a block that, you can attach to and it makes things float or move forward. That's what I added so that the engines can look faster while the rods and wheels are moving. And speaking of the side rods, motors on the wheels would allow side rods on my models to move with ease. I guess that made him look kind of fluid, In the remake series, I decided to give the engines some blinking abilities as well as some additional effects like the troublesome trucks laughing at one point. Which happens to be, one of the that you can add to blocks in Blocks World, I'd say. Let me just grab up a file, one of the screenshots I've taken. So this is So this is the shot where the trucks they fell off the viaduct and then they just, ended up in the ravine. And then, Peter Sam rushes to the scene of the disaster and his driver said that we didn't secure them properly. Crash scene here was pretty good. I like that. I like how the troublesome trucks derailed and then just fell in the ravine. That was very, very funny. I also like the way how they just, they just exploded as they fell in the water here. That was pretty good. And there's my Tommy model of Duncan here. Now, here's the reason why I think this video got made for kids. I think it was because of toys. So yeah. So in the remake series, I would include, some live action scenes featuring my Thomas toy, whether it be Tommy Trackmaster or Wooden Railway. Far there's like a few of these videos on this channel that featured toys that got made for kids. But I'm surprised that, Pop Goes the Diesel didn't get made for kids either. I mean, my remake episode. I'll show you some of my other toys. And hopefully the YouTube algorithm does not mark this live stream as made for kids, because that would be disastrous for me. You can see there's Rusty, Sam. Can you see George the Steamroller in the background? I think you can, really. I mean, by the way, I include some toy scenes was because not because GWR Studios include live action Thomas models in his videos, but also because I didn't want every scene in these remake series to be entirely made of block squad. So I decided to add some of my toys for some of my viewers to see, and that's what I did. Really. Speaking of GWR Studios, I made a video about like a year ago discussing what happened and why he isn't making any more videos on his channel, by the way. I guess a lot of people really miss GWR Studios. Alright, so then we have Rusty's ghost story here. So this is that one scene right now. Now, fun fact, in the original TV series episode of Duncan Gets Spooked, the ghost engine is just a repaint of Skarloey's model. But here, to make this ghost engine have a more original design. And it kind of looks like a standard gauge tank engine, if you ask me. Like a really weird standard gauge tank engine. And you can see one of his wheels is about looks like it's coming off. And this, if you look closely, they're like, oh my gosh, it looks so cursed, really. So by the way, this steam locomotive, this Spooked ghost engine character was, this ghost engine is in fact a pretty model I did. I've had a lot of fun making this, really. This scene, I had a lot of fun making this scene. I just like the way how that ghost engine just goes the track and then he falls. And then just, he was never found again. I mean, Rusty's story of Duncan Gets Spooked is actually one of the, one of the spookiest tales that was ever told in a Thomas episode. Not to mention it was kind of tragic, really, seeing this, this ghost engine fall into the into the ravine and never get found again. No wonder the classic series season 5 had some dark moments here and like dudes, it's like I mean, this isn't the only episode that, that had those dark moments. I mean, season 5 you've got episodes like Stephanie Gets Lost or Haunted Henry or Percy and the Haunted Mine, I think it was called. Was it called Percy and the Haunted Mine? I think it was. Or is it something I don't remember really? It's been a while since I've watched, the classic Thomas episodes. Those episodes were really dark and haunting. I wonder what kids were like back in the day when they was on television. Were they like mesmerized or were they just scared? Sure, really. Oh, and by the way, were some of you guys you saw this episode on your DVD? So were you guys scared that some of these episodes were being broadcasted and you saw those scenes and it made you a little uncomfortable when you were watching? I mean, this scene didn't really make me uncomfortable that much, but it was pretty dark. I mean, it's like one of the first times, death was ever shown in a TV series episode of Thomas. No, actually, it was the season 2 episode, Dawn and Douglas. Yeah, Dawn and Douglas. That was the one, where Douglas breaks up the spiteful brake van, and he literally just breaks into pieces. Like that counts as a death, right? Okay, we're getting carried away here. So let's move on to the shot. Okay, so this is the model of Duncan I made. Now, I tell the way Duncan's model is turned out. And fun fact, I decided to use Renee's chassis for. I decided to use Renee's 4-wheel chassis base of Duncan's model, and then I just heavily modified it to make him look like Duncan. And I like how it's turned out, like it said before. So I didn't want Duncan out of proportion like what he was in CGI, since I know a lot of people didn't really like CGI design that much as the other narrow gauge engines. And to be honest, Duncan's model from season 18 onwards, I mean, yeah, I can understand why, because his proportions did look kind of weird when compared to the other narrow gauge railway engines, like Skarloey, for instance. I mean, they could have just made Duncan his basis in real life, which is part of a Welsh railway, and one of the engines is called Douglas, which Duncan was based off. They could have made him look more like Douglas, since all the other narrow gauge engines are literally modeled after their bases in the CGI series and have gotten like some additional features like pipes like that. So for Duncan's model to not look like his CGI model, I decided to raise his boiler up along with his smoke box. Or like making the faces of the engines. So I didn't use some of the generic faces of the Blues, which are these people in Blox World. I didn't use their faces. I didn't use face textures that Blox World had. So I decided to use some a mouth texture before adding the eyebrows and the noses on. And that's probably another thing why people liked the models, the models of these characters. All right, so the next scene I'm going to show you is, when Duncan is on the Old Iron Bridge, he's ready to get spooked. Okay, so this is the scene where, Duncan sees fireflies in front of him. and then it looked like an engine to him. Now, fun fact, the fireflies here are just basic cylinder blocks, but with an added trigger to hold them in place. And I just sorry about that. I was meant to say use a yellowy kind of no, it was a glowing yellow texture for the these cylinders. So it looks like that they're just these insects making the shape of an engine in front of Duncan. I know they're just simple basic blocks, but still, because if I add like legs or antennas or anything like has, then they would probably make them look too big. Make them move. I decided to use a moving block to make it hidden, so it looks like the cylinders are moving by themselves as fireflies, and that's how I made them. Really, I'm going to show you another screenshot. All right, so this is the next scene is I like that scene where Duncan was like, "It's the ghost, take me back, please," and then just back. You can see his face is all shocked. He's letting out a whoosh of steam, and yeah, I just love that shot really with the moon behind him. The atmosphere in these kinds of episodes was actually done pretty well. Sure, it does cheap when compared to the model series, but still, to make them as look as high quality as possible. Yes, I know the remake series had pretty low. Nah, there were some scenes that I felt were quality, but still, this in particular was one of my favorite shots I made. It's where Duncan was on the Old Iron Bridge. He's ready to be spooked, or he wasn't ready to be spooked, as his firemen were playing a trick on him. Also, what is that little circle thing doing on his cap? I don't know what that is really. I mean, just look at Duncan's face. He really is pretty shocked after witnessing he thought was the ghost engine. And then when he heard a splashing from below as his driver threw a rock into the ravine, he was like, "No, I'm going to get haunted. Let me just go back to my shed and sleep in there." So that's in the episode. In all honesty, this was one of my favorite videos to ever make. This is one of my favorite videos that I've ever released on this channel, really. No wonder it's got like 65,000 views as of now. And, even though it's made for kids, I still think it's a pretty good video I made. But I don't know why that YouTube made this remake episode for kids when it, literally shows, a scene of an egg dying in front of us. Now, I tried submitting the appeal so that they could not make this video for kids anymore, but YouTube said anything about it though. But hey, at least the rest of my series episodes aren't made for kids, I guess. Otherwise, like, no one can comment on them. No one can just support my work, really. Even if I didn't, originally write the story Duncan gets spooked, of course, because I wasn't around it. This was made, but still. I just like people supporting my work on on my remake episodes. Especially when it involves, train characters that live and work together on an island full of railways, and that's Sodor. All right, just let me just do this. There you go. So, will the remake series return? Well, I did promise that I will be doing some more of these remake series episodes. Even most of them aren't going to be made on Bloxwood anymore, so I'm sorry, guys. But just to know that my remake series episodes take a very long time to be produced. Even though I have so many careers to work on, like university or you know, like schoolwork at the time my remake series episodes were being produced, these usually hold me back for some reason. And I've got like chores and jobs I have to do my entire life, really. I mean, I don't have a proper job yet. I still have some little jobs to do. So those are why some of my video projects take me like very long times. I don't have the time to make them at times, really. I mean, yes, I take like one remake episode of, that had Bloxwood content called Thomas Percy and the Dragon. And that was the only remake I did in 2024. So I don't know if I'm going to make any episodes this year. We'll have to wait and see. The thing is, I'm probably going to use either trains to make these episodes or maybe even train, like just the word trains, but with a Z at the end. It's that, it's this thing that most Thomas and Friends YouTubers work with to make their own story. It's where they have lots of Thomas Moles to use on like a railway environment. I think that looks pretty cool to use. Maybe I'll get that one day. So if there's people watching this live stream, then then feel free to some questions, as long as they're not like inappropriate or personal ones. So would you like to see more remake episodes on this channel, or do you want to leave them be and let me do other stuff, singing monsters and stuff? Which, by the way, My Singing Monsters is like my traditional type of content back when I started this channel. I mean, basically, the remake series was like something I wanted to try something. It was something like I wanted to try something new and different, like, to give a bit of variety. I think, like I said before, but I don't know. Actually, I did say that before, so yeah. So, in other words, I think that I wanted to make my YouTube channel have a bit of, variety to them. If it was, I thought it was like, it was all My Singing Monsters content, then some viewers would be a little bit bored of it. So I decided to give like some other stuff a chance, like, like Thomas videos, and the remake series was some of them, I think. You can see why these videos have blown up on my channel nowadays. I mean, not like hundreds of thousands of views, but tens of thousands of views at best, with some of them having like, a few thousand views. And I guess I've run out of things to say for this live stream, so that's my first ever live stream I'm doing on this channel. And I hope to see you again in another live stream where I'll be something else. And by the way, what are your plans for Halloween this year? Keen to know, really. Anyways, this is ZESG54 Studios, and I hope you all have a fantastic spooky season. So, in a few seconds, I'm just going to end this live stream off, unless if some person just wants to jump in the chat and say something, then that'll be great. Maybe not. All right, so there's, all right, so this is ZSG54 Studios signing off, and I all have a great Halloween season. So see you guys.